Starro the Conqueror has recently shown up in the trailer for James Gunn's Suicide Squad, making everyone wonder just who this apparent monster is. Where did he come from, and why have fans of the DCEU never heard of him before? Welcome back, Nerd Squad. Never fear, knowledge is here. We're here to enlighten you on the fearsome villain that is Starro the Conqueror, and get you up to date before Suicide Squad's release date. Join me as we count down the top 10 Starro facts that you need to know, and find out just what makes this villain so important and so terrifying. Let's get counting. Number 10, his inspiration. The creation of the character took inspiration from a few different things, depending on who you talk to. Starro is credited with being created by Gardner Fox and Mike Sekowsky, but editor Julius Schwartz also was apparently part of Starro's creation. While we can see the monster movie inspiration in Starro's appearance and design, being a great monstrous starfish after all, referred to as a kaiju in the recent Suicide Squad trailer, Schwartz also claimed that the name Starro the Conqueror took inspiration from Toronto the Conqueror, a Ray Cummings sci-fi novel. Number 9, Star Conquerors. Starro isn't just a one-off monster, he's actually an alien. He is from a race of aliens known as Star Conquerors, who are known for taking over other planets using their mind control powers. Starro himself is an accomplished member of the race, having taken over 9 worlds, all on his little lonesome. Not including Earth, of course, a planet he seemingly struggles to conquer solo time and time again. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, just a quick reminder to click that like if you haven't already. It really does help us out here at the channel. Thank you so much. Sending lots of happy Starro vibes to you. Happy Jaro vibes, maybe is better. Number 8, The Brave and the Bold. The Brave and the Bold, issue 28, marked Starro's first appearance, but this point isn't really to talk to you about what happened there, but more to highlight the Brave and the Bold connection between Starro and the name of the team whose movie he'll seemingly appear in, the Suicide Squad. More specifically, James Gunn's version, of course. Starro had his first appearance in The Brave and the Bold, and a few issues earlier, the Suicide Squad also had their first appearance as well there. This initial iteration of the squad was quite different from the one that we've come to know today. The roster included Rick Flag, Karen Grace, Jess, later renamed Jeff Bright, and Hugh Evans. The Suicide Squad first appeared in issue 25 of the original Brave and the Bold series, and Starro would make his first appearance only a few issues thereafter in issue 28. Number 7, First Appearance. We obviously also need to talk about Starro's first appearance though, because it is pretty brilliant, hilarious, but also establishes just how frightening of a villain Starro would go on to become. As I said previously, Starro would first appear in the Brave and the Bold series from the 50s in issue 28. Here, Starro would square off with the Justice League, also recruiting a few Earth-based starfish from the oceans to help him in his plot to take over the world. In the end, he'd then face all of the Justice League together at once and would easily be bested by them during the final showdown of the issue, taking place at Happy Harbor. What a lovely place. Happy Harbor, where dreams come true. They would use the same thing that one would use to defeat Earth starfish, lime, tossing it at their enemy before announcing their victory. They won, yay! This issue, it should be noted, also includes an awesome factoid page on actual starfish. I really like that that's kind of like in the middle of everything, and they're like, these are real starfish, and let's learn some things, kids. Number 6, the Justice League. As established in that very first issue, Starro would go on to become a constant and recurring enemy of the Justice League, showing up trying to conquer the world only to inevitably be beaten back and defeated by the JLA repeatedly. In the comics, he's actually known as being the first supervillain the JLA would ever face, if you can imagine that, bringing together Aquaman, Wonder Woman, Martian Manhunter, Green Lantern, and the Flash to take him on in that first appearance. And he hasn't just terrorized the Earth within the comics either. While him appearing in the Suicide Squad film might seem ridiculous if you're not familiar with the character, he also has appeared as a villain in both of the animated series Batman Beyond and Batman the Brave and the Bold, as well as appearing as an enemy to the League and the world in the MMO game DC Universe Online. So taking the leap to the big screen seems to make sense considering his longtime capability of popping up, well, just about anywhere, and his status as the League's first supervillain ever. Pretty crazy. Number 5, Force Bolts. So what makes Starro so terrifying when it comes to him being a villain? After all, he's just a giant space starfish, right? So how intimidating could he really be? Well, the answer is still pretty intimidating. Just because Starro might seem like a weird villain in the modern day, don't let his appearance fool you. He's still an immensely powerful supervillain to be feared even now. While his psychic powers are generally what he's remembered for, Starro can also fire deadly force blasts from his tentacles. In other words, while Starro might try to influence you to bow down, even if that doesn't work on you for some reason, you might want to consider bowing down anyways, or face the consequences of getting force blasted to death. Force blasts. Number 4, Spores. Watch out for those spores! One of Starro's most prominent powers is mind control. He can take control of the minds of others, making them do his bidding, and generally using his agents and psychic mind control powers to conquer worlds. Initially, when he first reappeared in the Prime Earth continuity, he used face spores to influence others and seize their minds, although following a fight with Mr. Terrific, where he was thought dead afterwards, he then reappeared again, seemingly only needing to use his giant eye in order to take control of the minds of others. Yikes! So now instead of watching out for those spores, you just have to watch out in general for Starro, lest he get his eye on you. Number 3, Starro's babies. Something important to note is that Starro can not only recruit other starfish to join him, but also asexually reproduce and create little Starros to help him in his plot. These smaller Starros will follow his command and can attach themselves to the head or face of victims to take control of their minds and their bodies, even making their victims perform deeds that conflict with their own sense of morals. These smaller Starros also seem to be able to recruit earthen starfish to help them in their task, meaning that Starro can easily go from a powerful army of one to an even more powerful army of many. I believe they're also psychically linked with Starro, so if you're wondering how will he talk to all those little starfish, just with his mind. Number 2, Red Lanterns. If you think all of those powers make Starro the Conqueror a villain to be feared, wait till you meet his Injustice alternate. In the Injustice universe, Starro isn't just a monstrous alien starfish who flies through space and can take over your brain with spores, his spawn, and potentially his eyeball. He also has the powers of the Red Lanterns as well. That's right, Starro ends up on the Red Lantern Corps, fueled with rage, which also gives him a bunch of other Red Lantern powers to boot. I imagine instead of spitting acid, though, as Starro doesn't really have a mouth, he probably spits acid out through his tentacles, similar to his force blasts, but more horrific. Also, wondering where Starro wears his ring. Like, because I didn't see it. Is it a big ring? Am I just missing this? Is it really obvious? I want to imagine it's like really tiny and it's just like on one little like tip of one of his star points. Number 1, Jaro. Starro's return to the comics in the Prime Earth continuity would also give us one of the best characters ever, Jaro. Jaro is the clone of Starro, regrown from a tissue sample Batman had of Starro. Jaro was raised as Batman's son, and both he and Batman therefore share a special, loving, familial bond. Pretty adorable, I'm not gonna lie, especially when Jaro appears in his Robin costume. I love it. A true member of the Bat family at heart. Jaro is also shown in the comics to have a very inventive and powerful imagination, so you kind of get to see him dressed up in all sorts of cute little outfits in his mind. His powerful imagination! Sadly, Jaro also must struggle with the fact that he is likely the one person who is destined to eventually face off with and defeat Starro. And yet at the same time, he also came from Starro and is like a part of him as well, so it's a lot of drama. What are some of your favorite Starro facts? Are you a Jaro fan like me? What other JLA or Suicide Squad villains would you like to see make an appearance in the DCEU? Let us know in the comments below. And speaking of comments, it is time to turn to some comments from one of our latest videos, Top 10 Saddest Things That Happened to the Flash. G responds, is Flash cursed? Well, if you're Wally West, then yeah. Wow. Tell us how you really feel. Yeah, but Wally West is kind of cursed, although I'm hopeful that he's moving out of his cursed period now. Kingdom Come Superman shares, the big 3 ones that come to me are Iris West taken out by Eobard, Barry Allen sacrificing himself in Crisis on Infinite Earths, and Wally losing his family when he initially returned. Yeah, those are all great ones, and I actually kind of was disappointed. I mean, I wasn't disappointed. I chose not to put Crisis on Infinite Earths because I feel like everyone always talks about it, but I think we need to do a part 2 because I do feel like we need to talk about it. Donald Doob comments, DC really did great with creating their whole Flash family idea because, man, a world where Barry Allen wasn't created would suck. It would be crazy insane if DC introduced some new DC Trinity where Flash was one of the three. He is just so awesome. Also, Amanda, you're amazing. Oh, well, thank you. You're amazing. And I also agree, Barry Allen's pretty important. Trex Advent asks what would happen if we saw Ezra Miller's Flash undergoing all of these sad moments in the DCEU, or do you think we will see the opposite of that? I definitely feel like there's sadness in Ezra Miller's Flash's future. I feel like sadness is just a big part of the Flash. The story, I mean, his dad's still in prison, so we gotta figure that out. And yeah, I think there might be some sadness ahead, sadly. And that's all the time we have for comments today. Be sure to comment below for a chance to have your thoughts and feels shouted out in a future list. This has been Top 10 Nerd, and I'm your host, Amanda McKnight, reminding you, as always, to stay nerdy, YouTube.